Welcome everyone back to Fort Operating Base Lake Fork. I am Greg Hill. I'm your host of your fishing show today. And today is October the 5th of 2021 here at beautiful Lake Fork. I'm going to go over what I've been doing in this past week and a half since my last fishing report. But the overall good news is fall is here. We've been waiting for it. Everybody who's been trying to get away from that heat and a lot of that deep water, just throwing deep worms and some jigs. I did a lot more different things than that, but some people really focus on that, and now we can start to get away from that a little bit. We can move back into shallower water, throw some moving baits. Not to say that can't catch any fish deeper, but right now they're moving in shallow and then kind of pulling out just a little bit. So I'm gonna get right into it. But okay, so let's talk about just the basics. The water clarity in some parts of the lake is clear. The water clarity on other parts of the lake is that stained green color still. And it's just going to keep getting better. We had rain a couple of days ago. It really didn't do much to the water clarity at all. It might have helped my grass back on my property, but the water, I didn't notice any real difference to the water clarity because of the rain. And if I sniffle a couple times during this, I apologize, but it's hay fever season, and I suffer from it, and I'm just suffering through it. So I'm doing my best to get through it until my body gets used to the season again. But that's how I know it's fall for sure when that starts happening to me. It always happens right around the Sealy tournament. But so we talked about the clarity. The water temperature continuing to cool down. It's in the low 60s. It's been in the 60s one of those nights, and the water temperature is starting off in the 74, 75 degrees. So the water's just really starting to cool off. I've seen 73 at one place. So and just the other day there was a little bit of steam coming off the water because obviously the outside air temperature had cooled down enough that it was getting a little fog coming off the water. So it's definitely starting to cool off. There's definitely fish pulling back in these coves. It has been taking place really for the last 3 weeks, honestly. I just had a fish blow up in about a foot of water about 30 meters away from me here just 5 minutes ago. So they're chasing these shad in this shallow water, and I've seen the schools in my electronics, and I've seen it with my eyes. They're definitely pulling back in. The other day we caught some way back in the coves, but I'm going to go through my lure selection here. But let's talk about the water level. The water level, and thanks for the birds giving me a little commentary out there on my review. So I call that the pterodactyl, by the way, if you can hear it in the background. But the water levels continue to fall. We had a little bit of rain. It came up just a little bit, and now it's continuing to go back down. We're almost 2 feet low, which one pulls the fish out of a lot of the existing grass on the bank. It pulls them away from the bank. They've got to really get a lot on wood. But if you can go to places and still find good green grass there, that's a pretty good spot, and you'll start to find more fish in those areas because there just isn't a lot of grass in some places that is down in the water. You have to really go back in the back of the coves to try to find it in some places. And I'm not talking like the pondweed that we get out in some of the main lake points. I'm talking about the thicker coontail and like a hydrola type grasses that we see back in some places. But so I'm going to get into it. So really, number one, the most important thing is moving baits. Starting off in the morning, throwing topwaters, throwing shallow running crankbaits, and I've got a selection of those. Look, you can't go wrong with the stick baits, the heading baits. You've got your whopper ploppers is what I call it. Obviously, it's a whopper flopper is what I call it. A lot of joke around. Poppers. So there's a lot of difference. So look, I'm mostly throwing shad colors, but I throw the bone color. I'm throwing some chartreuse colors if the water's kind of dingy. And I've thrown a blackish color too, and I haven't as much luck on the blackish color, but I think it should be working, but I just didn't seem to get the bites in the morning on it. So the other thing I've been playing around with in the mornings are some of these wake baits. These wake baits are hard baits that are designed to, they go down maybe 6 inches, maybe 2 inches to 6 inches, but less than a foot. And they're designed to go down just under the water. You work them back and work them right back to the boat. Kind of a steady retrieve. Maybe that's a slow pause every once in a while. But it's almost like just a bait you're using like a buzz bait. And I don't have any buzz baits out, but buzz baits in the morning too. You can start throwing those now also. I haven't been throwing them yet. I'm going to start throwing. I'm going to actually go throw some in the morning probably in an area. I just haven't been throwing them yet because I just had other selections of stuff I've been throwing. So I'll probably test them out in the morning. But so the Topwaters, obviously your normal topwater baits, just go through the cycle and see what baits. The other thing that you can throw, it's almost like a topwater, is a really shallow running jerk bait. One that only goes down, maybe 6 inches or so, and work that through the shallows. And that's almost like working a topwater bait. The challenge here is that, if you are trying to get someplace where the grass is, there's some places there are grasses, like about 6 inches below the surface. You just don't have a lot of room, and your lure is going to continuously get snagged up with all those treble hooks on that stuff. So that's why you got to work through a type of weedless presentation. You can even go on topwater and work a Senko or something like that on the top, almost like walking a dog, keeping it on the surface, had a couple bites during this week doing that, just above the grass. So little crankbaits, look, I'm throwing these square bills for the most part, shad colors. I'm alternating between, if you see how thin that body is, that's a Fritz flat side. So I'm alternating through the thin ones to get a tighter wobble, and the rounder square bills to get that wider wobble. And it really just kind of depends on the clarity of the water. If I need the wider wobble to get just more water movement in there so the fish can track it down, that's obviously going to mean that more stained water. I don't need that much wobble in the more clear water, so I'll go with these thinner ones and get a tighter wobble. So the other thing you can throw in the morning, and the same type of thing you throw this actually all day, is just your bigger plastic swim bait type lures. Now this is a Lake Fork trophy lure, but there's others out there that you can throw. And look, you're going to throw it down. This is a great profile. This is a 6-inch one, and I've been throwing this, and the biggest fish I caught this week came on this bait. It was a 7-pounder, just under 7 pounds, and it came on that bait. And it's just, it looks like a big shad all by itself back in the shallows, and you're working it slow or kind of reeling it real quick for a reaction bite, and let it fall down and reel it, and let it come down and reel it. So I'm basically like letting it come down and zoom it. Now I will tell you, make sure your gear speed on your reel is not too fast. Look, you don't want to move the bait 5 feet in 1 second. That's a little bit too aggressive. It's just going to pull away from the fish. Look, I'm throwing it on a 5-to-1 or 6-to-1 gear ratio. I had a client he's like an 8-to-1 gear ratio reel. It was just moving too fast. I would watch the fish on some live scope. I could see the fish. I could see him bringing it right there and bring it by him, and it was pulling away from the fish. And then I let him cast a couple times, and I kind of demoed another one. I put it in there, let it sink through, and I got a bite. I wasn't moving it as quick to get that reaction bite as his, and it was all about the gear ratio that was on my reel. So the other favorite thing I like to do this year, and it's just really, it's one of the few times a year I do it a lot now, except for the summertime a little bit, are spinner baits. And like right now, my best spinner bait's been a white spinner bait with a little chartreuse on it, but it's got white painted blades that have really like a shad. It's got an eyeball on there and a little bloodline on it, so it actually looks like it's another shad swimming by it. And I don't have it out because it's not a rod locker. But look, this is the same type of thing. It's a white with chartreuse color. There's tandem blades. Now I've had tandem Indiana and a willow blade on the other one. These are kind of like this one right here instead of the tandem willow blades, which you can see the difference between the two. Not really sure it makes too much on that inner blade what it does, but you can see, look, on this I've got another Lake Fork kind of swim lure that's on my trailer, and Lake Fork trophy lure. And then look, I love just using grubs. I'll just use a white plain grub twin tail kicker on there, and I've got white and chartreuse. I don't got these open up, but the same color but different size. This is just a plain grub, single tail, white and chartreuse grub, and I'll put those on different sizes of my spinner baits. Now look, my spinnerbait fishing right now, best is at about 10 feet deep. So I'm throwing it out there, I'm letting it go down the bottom, I'm slow rolling across the bottom, and I'm just kind of bringing over brush piles, bringing across submerged logs, things like that. I'm just watching the fish come and hit them, so it's really great to watch, and it's great fishing. This is the time of year I love to get on all these pond dams, these older dams that are out here, and throw it down the whole length and bring it right down the middle of it, and then move off the side a little bit and bring it down the side. But make sure your spinnerbait is almost just maintaining contact with the bottom. You want to continuously feel it kind of bump on the bottom a little bit. It's going to look like a shad kicking its way along the bottom. It's got those blades just making a little reaction, getting a little bit of attention to it, and you can get some big fish. This is normally a big fish lure for me this type of year, and I throw everywhere from the half ounce, 3/8 ounce, a half ounce to 1 ounce. I've even got some 1.5 ounce ledge buster spinnerbaits. I'll throw if it's at submerged roads and the submerged dams are even deeper. But you know, based on my depth, I'm usually using the 10 to 15 range for something like that. Could you go shallower? Maybe, but I don't know about the bigger fish being shallow on the spinnerbait bite. I haven't had it. It's mostly in that, like that 10 to 15 foot depth. So, okay, so I've talked about spinnerbaits. I've talked about hard baits, top water. I'm talking about the I don't know if my thing just ended recording. I got a message on my phone. I'm talking about the top water baits, swim baits, plugs, soft plastics. I haven't talked about, what I didn't mention yet, were underspins. So another, and I don't have one out, but you know, guys know exactly what they look like. You get yourself a soft plastic swim bait, and just like this, it's going to look almost exactly like this, except there's going to be a spinner hanging underneath it for that swim. That's why I obviously call it an underspin. That's been a really good bait for me also. It's caught both good quantities and some good sized fish in the last week and a half. So I guess that's about it. Let's see here. What other news we got going on? Oh, I will tell you, I'm going to try to upload some other video with this, or it might have to be in another video. But a client and I hooked into the biggest snapping turtle I've ever seen in my life. I described it. It's basically, it was 6 feet long. The shell was 1, 2, 3.5, maybe 3.5 feet long. The head was this big. We couldn't have lifted it out of the water. Now I imagine, and we caught it on a spinnerbait. It hit that white painted spinnerbait. We fought it for a while. I was trying to get my spinnerbait out. I got it next to the boat. I've got some video and pictures of it. I'm gonna put it on here. I thought I was gonna have to just cut the line to get the spinnerbait back, but I kind of thought if I get it closer, I can do just like when you have a bait stuck on a tree or a log on the water, you reel down to it and you give it a little push. I thought that was worth a try. I got him right up to the boat side of the boat. I reeled down real quick and I pushed, and the spinnerbait popped right out of his mouth and he swam away. And I gotta tell you, I mean, I don't know what the record here is on Lake Fork for size of a snapping turtle, but this had to be one of the biggest. Now, I'm going to put some video on there, and I'm not sure what I have to do, because I may have to take some video out. My client that I was fishing with and myself, we got kind of a little excited, and some of the words that we use to describe this turtle are not the words I usually say. So, I mean, if I can beep those out, I will. Otherwise, I might have to have it with no sound. So, I'm just letting you know. I'll figure out what I'm going to do, but I apologize. I would love to have the sound on there, but I just don't think I can. So anyway, so I guess that's all I have for right now. Hey, I'll be out on the lake here for the next couple of days with clients. If you see me, don't hesitate to come up and say hi. I love talking to people on the lake. I had a really fun time taking some client fishing. Took a Marine and his 2 sons. This guy is this Marine was, he's a hero. I mean, this guy's a hero. He really is. He was a young man who answered the call to his country and served for 4 years, almost continuously in combat for those 4 years in the infantry, as an infantry Marine. And, it's hard to say what you pay back a guy like that. It's hard to say what he sacrificed, for this country, and the things he put up, and the number of times he risked his life. And I gotta say, he was a great young man. His sons were great, and we had a great time. And I did have one of the videos of him catching a really nice fish, and he was super excited. He's trying to get good at fishing and get on his high school fishing team. And man, I hope I can help him out some way in the future. So, look, anyway, I'm Greg Hill, and I'm gonna say, it's almost nighttime here, so good night from Fort Operating Base Lake Fork. I hope you see you out here on Lake Fork. I'll be posting some dates for some openings I have in October. So give me a call, and I look forward to fishing with you. You guys have a great night. One thing I didn't mention are bladed jigs. I guess 2 things. Bladed jigs, it mimics the bait. It has good movement. It gives the vibration. And the fish, you can work it slow. You can work it fast for those basically like, the fish that are just sitting there, they're in the ambush mode, but you can bring the fish by them sometimes. You'll see them on the live scope. They're just sitting there, and they'll face it a little, they'll chase a little bit. When that happens, slow it down, let it get right in their face, and then zoom it away from them real quick, but not too fast like I mentioned earlier, and try to get that reaction strike from the bladed jig. Bladed jig's a good bait for doing that. And not only that, but the Senkos, I talked about Senkos. Throwing Senkos around the grass, in my opinion, is a good time this year too. But you have to find that green grass. You have to find the ability to have some good grass, not the dead brown grass. You won't find as many in those places. But just I forgot to mention that. And then also, again, swim jigs. So swim jig is staple bait for this type of year. Any kind of white jig, I like them with a weed guard on them so it doesn't get hung up on the trees as much, along with a Lake Fork trophy trailer, kicker trailer on there, or something else, one of the other trailers you like to throw. Anything like that, you can work low, let it continuously bounce the bottom, or contact with the trees and logs and stumps that are under there, and get a kind of reaction strike as it comes across this stuff. So look, that can be a big fish bite out here. Those the swim jigs have really successful days fishing on those in the past. So look, again, I'm signing off. Greg Hill from Forward Operating Base Lake Fork. You guys have a great night.